Everyone, Carolyn from Mommy Ramblings. Today I'm here with Laurinel. Okay, got it. Laurinel Owen, and you're the author of Strings Attached. It's a pleasure to speak with you today. And why don't you tell us a little bit about what your book is about and what inspired you to write it?
It's a big topic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I think the subtitle, Betrayal, Bigamy, and Self-Development, is an overarching theme of the entire work, which is a memoir. It's a true story about my...
Sorry, hold on for a second. Sorry.
I beg your pardon?
Yeah, my video came on, so I just had to mute it. So I just said I apologized.
My story as a professional cellist and the travels I have done, and meeting the man I married in Johannesburg, South Africa, when I was working in the National Symphony Orchestra during apartheid.
Right.
So that was quite interesting also. And I guess it's sort of typical. I didn't know at the time, but I was pretty young and naive, that I found out he was married, and it was the story of, oh, I love you, not her.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally said, find me when you're divorced. And I moved back to the United States from South Africa. And he did. He followed me here, and we ended up getting married, legally married. And then he became very ill. We were together here in the United States for 22 years. He became very ill, and I had to make a decision whether to take him off of life support, which I did. And then I found out from his first family he never bothered divorcing his wife. And that opened up a huge can of worms, because I found out all sorts of secrets about him and assets that I didn't know about. And I had to engage attorneys on 3 continents.
Right. And so if we just go back a little bit, you were born, was it Texas? Were you born in Texas?
No, I'm American. We moved around a lot when I was a child, but I grew up junior high and high school in Dallas.
Okay, yeah, I knew I read something about Texas. All right, so you moved around a lot, and you have just one brother, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And your father, he was older than, wasn't he like 13 years older than your mother or something?
Yeah, 13, 14 years, yeah.
Okay, and he was very cold and distant, you describe him as, right? He didn't give a lot of compliments, he didn't...
Oh, he lived in a police state. I mean, he was so controlling.
Right.
And, in some ways I look back on that and I think that kind of discipline he inspired in us. I mean, he was a violinist, not a policeman, but that continues to be a bedrock for me, to be disciplined.
Right. Okay. But sometimes you then resented your mother, right? Because you said she just allowed this to happen. Isn't that? Did you say like she was submissive in that?
My mother is extremely kind and very loving, but she didn't stand up to her husband, and that I resented.
Right.
Because I felt like we needed a little bit of protection.
Right, because and so you grew up like that, and then it ended up that you were with another man in the States, right? And he followed you to South Africa, wasn't he? But he was very jealous.
Correct. Yeah, that didn't work out. I was just trying to kind of set the scene in the book for how I seemed to be attracting men that weren't good for me.
Yeah, and sometimes is the case, right? Yeah.
Indeed.
So then you went through that. He was, you went back and forth with him for a while, and then there was then you met this guy Claus. Now he was older than you too. So like he was 16 years older than you?
17.
17. Okay. And you found that like attractive at first, that it was that distance didn't really scare you off. You kind of...
Oh no,
No.
it was intoxicating.
Okay, now I wonder, do you think it had anything to do with that, your mother and father's relationship, there was such a wide age gap? Or...
Maybe, it's so funny because they say, whoever that is, that we marry who we know.
Right.
And my husband was my father.
Okay.
Father figure, I guess. And I was only 25 years old, and, we make mistakes, don't we?
Right, yeah. So you meet this guy, right? And then he tells you, but you're seeing also another guy named Paul, right? Is his name Paul?
I wasn't really seeing him because he lived in England, but he was, he was looking for somebody, and he found me, and yeah, that was not a very pretty situation, and I think I did not treat him very well, but.
And then your mother was coming, and it was all around Christmas time, right? So you had this triangle in there. Claus you met, and you were falling in love with him. He told you that he wanted you to go. Where were you? Was it Johannesburg that you were going to, or?
No. His family owned a beach house on the Indian Ocean.
Okay.
In a nature preserve. And it was about an 8-hour drive. I was in Cape Town with my mother, and it was about an 8-hour drive from Cape Town around the Cape of Good Hope, which is stunningly beautiful, just amazingly beautiful place where you see the Indian Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean colliding. Anyway, yes.
So Claus tells you, I want you to come meet my children. You knew he had children, right? And then he said did he tell you he was getting a divorce at that time?
No, I didn't know he was married. He invited me on a family vacation, and I met his wife.
Oh, so you didn't know about the kids beforehand?
Oh, I knew the kids.
Oh, okay. So, but I mean, did you ever ask him, like, well, where's your wife? Are you divorced?
No, and it's something that's so strange. Why didn't I? I had no idea. I don't know.
Okay, so you just assumed like his wife was out of the picture.
He was because we spent all our time together.
Okay, so he invited you on this family vacation, and then you ended up showing up a day early. Is that what the case was there?
Yes.
Yeah, and then.
But still, when you think about it, Carolyn, don't you think that plan was a little bit on the edge?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Knowing what you know, yeah, because the kids could have, how could they keep these secrets that, oh, no, my father's not divorced or whatever? The whole thing just seems so crazy.
Totally crazy.
Right, but his wife answers the door, right, and tells you that he's on the beach with the kids, with their kids.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so, yeah. And then his mother was there.
Yes.
And that was a strange situation because she seemed to really like you at dinner or something, and then she turned on you viciously, right?
Well, I look back on it, and I think that she could see that I was not who Claus said I was, just a friend in need.
Mm-hmm.
And so she took the bull by the horns and threw me out.
Right, but she said you could go with her other sons if you wanted. She could.
And they were married. Though.
They were married, yeah.
Figure that out.
Yeah. So at that point, he gets very irate with his mother, right, and calls her a name or something that she did this, and which I don't know, like right then and there. Here's my thing: like if a guy doesn't treat his mother with respect, he's not going to treat any woman in his life like that. Like if he calls his mother horrible names and stuff, that's like a deal breaker for me because it's like they're not going to treat any woman with respect. So like right then and there, he told you something and he said he was going to drive you back. Did he drive you all the way back to
Johannesburg?
Johannesburg.
Africa's big.
Yeah.
You get from one place to another. Yes,
So
I wish you had given me that advice all those years ago. I could have used it.
Yeah, that was in when was this? About 1980, was it, or in the 80? It was in the early 80s.
It was in the 80s. Yeah, I moved to Johannesburg Christmas 1980.
Okay, so Christmas 1980. Yeah, that's wow. And you just moved across, like just left the United States, and over there, just that's you were very
Yeah, I
young,
was
right?
24 years old, and I had always thought that music was my ticket.
Mm-hmm.
And it has proven to be that. I was living in London studying cello, and I wanted to stay in Europe, so I took a number of auditions, and that was the job I accepted and moved to Johannesburg.
Were your parents very supportive of you doing that, or
Oh,
did
I
they?
never asked them.
No, but I mean, did they say, I can't believe
They didn't say
they didn't say
anything
anything?
because, no, because it was my life. I was supporting myself, and I guess they respected that.
Oh, okay. All right. They didn't make your life difficult saying, no, you shouldn't be. No. So, okay. That's one way giving you the support. And had your father passed away when your mother came or he was,
No,
no?
no, he lived to be almost 102.
Oh, wow.
And he died of COVID. In fact, today's the anniversary of his death.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wow. Okay. So he just didn't come over with your mother at the
Right,
time. Okay.
exactly.
And so then he drives you back and he tells you what? That he's going to divorce her and what? Like, why people are going to say, well, what did he tell you that you were like, hey, your wife was freaking there?
Yes, well, is that whole story, which now I suppose is very typical, but I was so naive and so young. I love you, not her. I'll do anything to keep you. That kind of thing. And he was really smart, really, really smart, and very manipulative. And we tell ourselves stories, don't we?
Yeah,
We
yeah,
make
absolutely.
stuff up,
Yeah, explains
and
stuff like
everything would be fine.
right. And you did, and what I had to keep reminding myself as I was going through this is that we didn't have the internet back then like we do now. Like you just couldn't say, like, let me see, let me look up his wife, or let me look up him and see if he's married, or what's going on. We didn't have any of that. We didn't even have cell phones, right? So
Well, in Africa, we were lucky to have a phone.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So we didn't have the technology, and it was hard for me to remember going through that because I'm thinking like, well, how doesn't she know? Like, can she just see if this is true? But then I'm like, wait, this is this is prior to Google and all that, and so she couldn't. So whatever he was telling you, and he's just giving you these stories that he doesn't love her, he's going to get a divorce. She's blackmailing him, right? He'll never see the kids again. And all of that business. And so, and which is typical. I mean, he's not the first man to do something like that or to feel that way. And even if it's true or if it's not, that's not like a unique situation. So there's a lot of women that sit there and wait for their love to become divorced or to finally leave his wife, or it's just for the kids and, all that kind of stuff. So you were stuck in that situation. And then I guess it was just going on too long, and you finally told him, I'm going to go to the United States?
I moved back. I moved back to the United States. Yeah, and it was risky because I didn't have a job, and at the time there was a cap on how much money you could take out of South Africa. It was a frozen currency, and so I was only allowed to take the equivalent of $300. So, it was a risky thing to do, but I was so fed up with his stories and with apartheid and playing in the orchestra.
Right. And then his wife she went to one of your performances and pointed you out afterwards, right, in the street, and started yelling these names at you. That's the WHORE that stole my husband, right, over and over and over again.
It was in the foyer during intermission.
Yeah. So she was becoming intrusive, and since she was banging on your door at night when you were with him, right? So yeah, he was having to. He told you like things like, I'm just like cringe. And you said there was a friend of yours over there that just totally said, I can't deal with this anymore. Like with you telling me anymore about Claus and what he's going to do. And I guess, like, in hindsight, or, no, just, I don't know if it's just age or whatever, but like hearing the stories, like the first thing you're like, well, why is he's telling you have to hide? He's going to hide his car. He's going to do, it's like red flag city, right? Now,
I totally ignored it.
Right. Yeah. And I think we've all dealt with a friend or, some, or our own lives, somewhere along the line, we know that feeling when somebody doesn't want to see something for what it really is. But yeah, I was like, oh my gosh. So he's saying, okay, I'll just pull my car in late at night. We won't be seen together, because she sent you something that she was going to sue you for what was it?
What do they call it?
Alienation of affection, or
yes.
Yeah.
Alienation of affection, that's it.
So you were like, oh my gosh, and he's like, oh, that's just a tactic of hers. She just wants to get you to throw me out. So we'll just pretend you did, and we won't be seen. And, and then you just had enough, and you went back to Dallas, right? Is that? And then he said he would come over there, but how long did it take him to come over?
9 months.
9 months. And he eventually shows up, and then he doesn't want to talk about, he just says, I'm divorced, but I don't want to talk about it. It's too painful.
Yes.
And doesn't show you any papers, and says that he had to agree never to go back to South Africa, right? Never to see his children, and that his wife got everything, his pension, the house, all the property, the money, everything.
That's right. That's what he told me.
Okay, so you guys are going to like rebuild your life in the United States, and where you're like, oh, it's going to be fine. We'll rebuild everything here. You're here. I'm here. It's all good.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You're feeling. Yeah. Okay. So then, did he was, tell us about his profession so that they understand what he did in.
Oh, I'm not even sure that I know what he did. He was a nuclear physicist. So his language was mathematics and accelerator physics. And I mean, he told me he had 2 PhDs, but I found out after he passed away, only one. I guess one wasn't good enough for him. He had to exaggerate.
Mm-hmm.
He was a very, very brilliant man, and really good at lying.
Right, and you were supporting him a lot, because all of his money, he said, had been taken, and when you were over there, he said all of his money had to go to support his family, right?
No, he told me that he was putting all his money towards his pension here in the United States.
Oh, okay.
Because he was behind. Because though he was born in the United States, he had never lived here. And he had to build up his retirement so we would be okay.
Was he really born in the United States?
Yes.
He was. Okay. And so, but nonetheless, you were footing most of the bills, right? I
was footing a lot of the bills. That's
right,
correct.
and you were working very hard to do that, but just did it. You two never had children, right? No. Mm-hmm. So he had his kids over there, and then one day you decide to move all the way over to Long Island. That was because from Texas to Long Island, because he got a job there in a lab?
Yes.
Okay, so at that point, was he bringing in money to support you guys?
Well, when he came from South Africa, he got a job here pretty quickly. So then when he got a good job here. But as I said, I was doing the major supporting because he said he was putting all his money towards his retirement, which turned out not to be true.
Okay.
Yeah.
And but you guys bought a house out on because Long Island can be pricey.
We're talking about a long time ago.
Yeah.
But it was pricey. But I was working very hard, And, he was bringing in a good salary. So we did buy a house here.
Okay. So so he's, and then you have friends there that know you as a couple. But he didn't marry you yet, and he had excuses for not wanting to get married because it was
it was so painful. His first marriage was so painful. He couldn't.
It was so painful. Okay, and at one point, you guys, you already had wedding rings that were made in South Africa, right?
Yes, he wanted to get married, and so
Right.
did I.
Okay, and so you went to did you go down to Virginia or something because they didn't require a divorce decree, and then he just pulled out at the last minute? Can't do it.
We went down there. We had everything organized, and he said he was into it and so on. And then at the last minute, he said he couldn't do it because it was that same old thing. Don't talk to me about it. It's just way too painful.
Okay, at that point, did you have friends, I know you said your other friend that you talked to about this was just, I don't want to talk about it anymore, but like newer friends or family that were telling you there's something wrong here, or why is this?
I didn't tell
You didn't tell anybody?
No, I was too ashamed.
Okay. So you had no outlet for any of those, to talk about any of those feelings or anything, huh? Wow. Okay. So but eventually, how did you end up getting married?
We repeated that process of going down to Virginia, the justice of the peace, and it was very simple. It doesn't take very long.
But what made him decide that he was ready then, as opposed to when?
I have no idea. I think it was because I was nagging and.
Right. Did he think he was going to lose you if he didn't do it, or
I have no idea. We didn't really talk about it.
So he just did it, and then
Yes.
And then you guys were married, and that was in what year were you married?
1992.
1992. Okay. So, and at that time, he had still never gone back to South Africa?
He did.
Oh, wait. Yes, that's right. That one, oh, that was a sneaky thing. That was, I felt your
very
angst.
sneaky.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very easy.
Yeah. Tell us about that. That's crazy.
Well, I was doing a concert tour of South America, and as he drove me to JFK, he said, "Oh, by the way, my mother is very ill, and I'm going to South Africa tomorrow."
What a horrible thing, right? Because then you're like, what? That throws your whole life in a tailspin, right? He's going back, and you're wondering, is he going to see his wife? Is he going to see his kids? Is he ever going to come back? What's going on? Right? So, and then he gave you a number, but you were never able to reach him the entire time.
No.
And
No.
how many weeks was that?
I think it was about 2.
2 weeks. So for 2 weeks,
Between 2 and 3. It wasn't that long.
You're thinking he's never coming back. I'm never seeing him again. I'm going to go back to New York, and that's going to be it, right?
I had no idea. I just didn't know.
Right. Okay. So then you go home to your empty house. 2 days later, he shows up
Correct.
and says that the reason he went back is because his mother was very ill, right? And he had to sell a painting to support her. And he comes back, and she took a turn for the better, right? She's okay.
I think it was a story.
Oh, yeah.
I found out after he passed away, and in fact, he took his family on safari.
Wow. Okay. So he was a prolific liar, probably a pathological liar, and so he was on a safari with his family. Meanwhile, they're thinking, do you know what they're thinking? Are they thinking that, where do they think he is during this, all this time? Do they know he was with you, or?
Oh, I'm sure they didn't.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. He didn't talk about it. I mean, obviously, he didn't say anything, and I was not in communication with them, so I'm just assuming he lied to me and to them.
But his mother called you one time, and she found you, right, in the United States. She called you, and she said, his wife is here in Johannesburg. And you said, she said, your wife is there. You said you're divorced. And he did like a Michael Corleone, like, I'm going to tell you this once and one time only. It's too painful. Then don't ask me about it again. I'm divorced, and she's just trying to get he said some other unkind things about his mother, right? So that's what I mean. There again, he said some really unkind things, and that she's just trying to do this to, upset everything, and don't believe her, and you just desperately needed to believe that, so you took that, as the gospel truth.
Another red flag that I ignored.
Right, yeah, but in hindsight, I mean, so, wow. And then, so this was like, went on for 22 years, and he got sick. Okay, and then it was like started with skin cancer, was it, at first?
Yeah, in the end, he had an awful lot of health problems. So his heart was not good. He did not take care of himself nutritionally, and he got type 2 diabetes. And things just started falling apart on him.
Right.
Yeah. Being a caretaker is very stressful and challenging.
And so
what I did.
That was up till, so eventually we got the internet, we got Google and stuff. Did you ever go searching for things as that became a possibility for us to do, an option for us to Google a little bit?
Before he died?
Yeah.
No.
You never did?
We're happily married.
Yeah, okay. You're very, very, very trusting. See, we cover a lot of true crime here, and we're like sleuths. Like, it's, even if a friend of ours is like, I just found this guy. What guy? And where is he? Okay, let's see what's going on. But, it's just, it's a scary world we live in, and there's a lot of people that are not who they say they are. It's crazy, and then your story is crazy, but you can't say it's like the only one, right? You have a lot of intrigue and stuff, but there's a lot of guys, even in the United States, that do this kind of stuff. I don't know if they go so far as to get married again, but, they catfish. They're not who they say they are. They say, I remember I had this one friend, and he said, that if some guy tells you he's calling you all the time on his way or back from work, that he's probably married because he can't talk at home. And this and that. And so some people are either overly paranoid or, or they're just blissfully believe, whatever they need to. And in your case, like, you believed him, and you really did. Did you ever you never really had like doubts at night that things that would come up and be?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I had a lot of doubts. But first of all, I really loved this man.
Right.
I wanted things to work out. And he was a good, there were good things which overrode those doubts.
Right.
So I was telling myself stories.
Right. And I think you have to be like that, that I sometimes I envy people that can do that, because I am like, my mother always said I should have been a prosecutor, because I don't stop. Like, it's like, I just can't. And so it's just not in my makeup. Like, when I read your story, I'm so anxious, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I would have been like, I just have my list of questions. I would have been fired at him. So yeah, but I know, I understand there's other people that can tell themselves something, and like I said, I have envied a lot of people that are able just to accept something, and because I'm just the opposite. Like, it's probably too bad in one way that I'm always looking for something, and probably when there's nothing. So it's a fine line, but you believed it all, and then in the end, okay, so he said he went to London, right, to meet his kids at one time, but you wanted to go, and he said no.
Yes. His kids finally tracked us down, and he went over there for a long weekend to meet them, and he said that he wanted to explain the situation to them so that they would understand, and so on and so forth. And that's what he did.
Right.
Yeah.
And you were like, not, I guess, like when he told you you're not going, you weren't like, well, then I'm out of here. If you don't include me with your kid, like you were kind of perfect for him because you didn't really harp on it, right?
I was perfect. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm not standing up. I don't think what I did was, I would not do it this way again, let's say that.
Right. So you didn't know, you didn't say there were no ultimatums like, look, if you don't include me with your family, then we're over, Claus. Or it was just like, okay, I can't go. All right. He doesn't want me to go. All right. That kind of thing. So he went and then came back and told you this whole story about his daughter. She shaved her head and she lived in this really
derelict
apartment. And so, and that wasn't true?
Oh, I don't know. It probably was.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it probably was.
And he spent how much time over there at that time?
It was a long weekend.
Just a long weekend. Okay. And the son, did he say anything about the son?
Yes, his son was engaged and was studying to be a physicist also. He was at, I don't remember what it was, Oxford or University of London. Anyway, no, but I met both of them later on.
Right, and go ahead.
No, I met both of them, particularly the son, many times because he lived very close to us here in Long Island.
Oh.
And we came over and spent time with him and so on, and he never said anything.
Okay, and that was when Claus was alive that the son came over?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
and I met the daughter several times also.
That's so weird, and they never said anything about the father still being married to the mother to you?
Correct.
And even his brother came over, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he never said anything.
I don't think he was not close with Klaus's family.
Oh wow. Okay.
He may not have known what was going on.
Okay, so I just think it's amazing that the kids, especially like being how the mother acted, so she must have like really had a very poor image of you. She thought you broke up her marriage, so that she must have told the kids this, and then when they came around you, that they didn't say things like to drive wedges or say stuff like he's still married to my mother, they're not divorced. That's interesting.
Nothing.
Yeah, that's interesting. Did they treat you well? I mean, were they nice to you and everything? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then, so he was, what about his like work colleagues? Did he get friendly with people at work? And no. He didn't.
No.
Okay. And so you didn't have any like social functions with people he worked with?
It was, he was very private, and I can see why now.
Yeah. And then there was a time when an FBI agent came to your door?
Yes. Because Claus was working on the Strategic Defense Initiative, Star Wars, and he had to get clearance through the FBI.
Right, and then you did ask the FBI agent, you said something about, he tells me he's divorced. Do you know have you seen any papers of his divorce? And he said, I can't divulge anything like that.
Right, correct.
Right, so, so, you did ask that, but then just stop at that. And, I have to ask you, you had sheepdogs with him, both, you had two in South Africa that you left, and then you brought a Scotty dog and a cat back?
Yeah.
Because I have Scotty dogs.
Those were well-traveled animals, huh?
Yeah, so, and then your cat, they came back to the United States, and so, but he was an animal lover?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, that's good at least. And then, no, because usually if they don't like animals, then it's usually another big red flag, But then, okay, so then there's way more to this than that at one point he took you to see his family's home, right? When you were still overseas. So you saw his family's home. Where was that?
It wasn't too far from where I lived.
Okay, and you said it had like a gloomy feeling to it, and you wondered why he was taking you through there.
I'm sure you know much more about this than I do, but I think he was a sociopath, and that he got off on drama. And I mean, you can tell me more of what the characteristics of a sociopath are. Extremely charming, very, very intelligent,
Right.
love drama, always being on the edge of something ready to fall apart, like inviting me on a family vacation, and whether I was going to meet the wife and so on and so forth. So I think that was part of it. He was getting some sort of
Thrill. Yeah.
kicks from my upset.
Right. And just also, it's like a game to them too when they're pretending, something that they're not, and to see how skilled they are at this lying and this creating of this fictitious life. And, she believing they usually go and they up the ante higher and higher about who they are. And I've dealt personally with someone that was a complete imposter from the UK, pretending she was someone else, so I know a lot about this. But it was just a game to her. Like, she started out small, and then it gradually grew up and went up the ladder to each one, and everyone was like a trophy. Oh, I fooled this person, I fooled that person. Yeah. So I mean, he was probably along the same lines that he thought, okay, I can get away with this. I'll just tell her I don't want to talk about this. It's too painful. And then I then go on back on the safari. Oh, my mother's sick, and but now she's okay now, and the painting sold, so she's set up, and it's a good thing I went back. So he becomes a hero. It's a good thing I went back because my brothers just, whatever, they weren't taking care of it. I had to step in. I'm, great person I am. And I did this, and so he's boosting himself up there. But then, so he gets sick, and when he got sick, was he still working? Did he still continue to work?
No. He was retired, and I think that was also sort of a nail in the coffin because he had been so wrapped up in his work, and it was very difficult for him not to be working.
Right, and what was that, like around the early 2000s?
It was around 2006, I think.
Okay, did he embrace computers, devices? Did he go on the
path? He was a physicist that worked in a high energy lab, but I would say no, he wasn't interested in computers and so on.
Because I bet you if he was, he could find out that a lot of that stuff could help him in deception and stuff. You know what I mean? If he was adept at.
This was still 20 years ago.
Yeah.
He was still pretty much in the beginning.
Right. So okay, and then he gets sick, and was he hospitalized? Was that in the United States that he was hospitalized? Yeah, and
to where I live now.
Okay, so what did he say? Like, but you found out that he had a history of what was it? The Nazis, right?
Well, when his daughter came here from South Africa, because I knew that he was on his deathbed and I needed to tell the children to come visit him, she came and told me she had done quite a bit of research into her grandfather. And then I continued that research, and through the Freedom of Information Act, was able to get the records of his father from the FBI. And he was wanted for murder in Germany, and in order to come to the United States, he had purchased a title, baron. And he opened up a bank in New York City in order to launder money for Hitler. And finally, the FBI caught up with him, and they had to leave. And Claus then was, a baby. Mm-hmm. And they moved to Switzerland.
Now, was his father ever caught and prosecuted for the war crimes?
The FBI claimed that he was the head of the American Gestapo. And I have continued doing research, and I found out just 5 miles from here, there were huge Nazi rallies in the 30s. Mm-hmm. And I think it's pretty incredible that I moved from Johannesburg to a place where his father was probably marching along, if not leading, these rallies.
Right, yeah.
So, anyway.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy.
It's mind-boggling, isn't it? There's a lot of aspects to the story.
Yes, yeah. And, I tell people all the time, and there's a woman in my close inner circle, she lives in Alabama, and she thought I was kidding. I was telling a story about how I knew this prosecutor who he made it his life's mission to prosecute the Nazis that had fled to the United States and hid out. And I said, we have a lot of Nazis that hid out here where I am in the Catskill Mountains. And she thought I was kidding, and she started to laugh. And I said, don't laugh, it's true. Do you know how many they captured up here? I said, and I know, and I contacted this guy because we had this compound that, I won't give too much away, but I talked to the man that was there, and there is no doubt in my mind that what was going on there. And now if you see this thing, they're just building, just like trying to use up this money. It just looks like crazy. And everybody says, what are they doing there? Because it's just like millions of dollars of stone and everything that's going in there. And if you read when he died, his obituary, and it's nuts, okay? But there are a lot of people that escaped, and they escaped prosecution, and it's terrible. And they were bigots, racists. I mean, what this guy said to me, he thought the person I was with was Jewish, and he thought I was Jewish, and he said, "You get out of here, you Jew! Get out of here, you Jew!" And I said, "Oh my gosh!" And his poodle was named Claus, and I know that was for Klaus Barbie. Really, I'm serious, because I studied a lot about the Holocaust, like just on my own with books, and I was immersed in it. So when I found out when this guy did this to us, I went right away, and it was close to where I lived. So I said to my neighbor, "Who is that man?" And she told me a little bit more about him, and I said, "There is no doubt in my mind that man is because he was not born in this country, I guarantee you." And I knew the prosecutor, and I gave him his information because I said he was just so mean. And in fact, we went to help him because he flagged us down and asked for help. And I said, "Oh gosh, there's an old man, he had a cane." And I said, "Be nice and help him." And then this person said, "Yeah, you said be nice and help him." And look what he said, "Get out of here, you Jew, get out of here." So it's just crazy. I mean, some of this stuff. But my friend in Alabama, she was like, she didn't believe it's true. And I said, I could show you the newspaper articles. I remember all through the 90s and stuff, they were still finding Nazis and prosecuting them for their war crimes that were hidden up here. Yeah. And we had another one, in a local band. And my sister and I used to watch that, and we said, he was just so mean. You could just see it in him, and he would just bang this drum in this band, and it was eerie, and it was horrendous. And guess what? His wife disappeared under mysterious circumstances. They had owned a little bar and restaurant in this town, like way back in the day when they came over. And this is when they were like in their 80s. This is in 2005. It was right before my mother died, and they found her face down in a pond, and his own daughter said, "My mother didn't do that. You better look into this," okay? And yeah, it's like a little crazy thing in this hamlet, but yeah, I mean, it's scary. It's scary. You never know really who someone is, kind of thing. And I'm sorry I took this off there, but that the Nazi part of it just intrigues me because that's just something I, have had experience with, and I've studied a lot. So that, I mean, to add that to the story, your story's like bad enough, but then you add this Nazi part of it, so to that. And you never knew that from him, though. He just from his daughter afterwards. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, when he talked about his family background, he was very cards to the chest.
Mm-hmm. And wow, that's some story. So how do you get through that? What have you? How do you get?
Goodness. Yeah. I tell you, that lawsuit, having lost my husband, finding out all these secrets, and then being sued. It was really bad, and I had terrible anxiety. So the last part of the book has a lot about the healing process, because I feel very strongly that betrayal is universal.
Mm-hmm.
And that other people have been betrayed too, and I would like to support those. And so I talk about the different methodologies, both traditional and untraditional, that I went through in order to get through every day.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really my goal. Is I would love to be able to support others who have been traumatized.
And there are a lot. I mean, betrayal, whether it's a spouse, somebody you thought was your friend, there's a lot of different types of betrayal, and it hits you, to your core, and you can either, grow very bitter and see, I'm never going to trust anybody again, right? I'm going to close myself off, and I'm tired of this. Or sometimes, it happens to us again and again because we refuse to let it do that, but we haven't learned some things to protect ourselves, so we go right in, and then somebody else can do the same type of thing to us. So yeah, it's a fine balance. You don't want to close yourself off and never allow yourself any friendships or relationships because of that, but you have to learn, so you just don't turn around, because sometimes, like you said, it could be the same awful person type that we gravitate towards or we attract to ourselves. So yeah, I mean, self-discovery is important, like you said, and just trying to find out and get help, and healing from it too, because you can also have guilt of like, oh, I should have been smarter. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't do this, or I didn't check that, or I just believed him, and you've got to, yeah,
guilt and shame.
Yeah, and we've got to release that too. And just, better, do better kind of thing. So, but just educate yourself, right? And find out more. And I think we live in a time now where it's getting harder and harder for these people to do these things. Now, the one thing is when they're in other countries, they're much more private. Like in the United States, almost everything is public. You want to find out something about somebody, you're going to find out. And I think that these imposters and everything that are coming, like the one I had, who came from the UK and changed her name multiple times, it was harder to get any information about her. And they'll come with some scheme like they're in the CIA or they're in this program and this. And so you feel bad if you even want to check, or, then they're very vulnerable. Like that's a tactic. And I think we have to start teaching people, this person that you think is so vulnerable and you don't want to, or they have such an important position. Oh, I'm with the defense. I can't give that out. It's classified. Yeah, it might not be. It might just be a cover of their lies.
Wow. Right.
right?
Imposters.
Yeah. So I think, and it's hard, and because in other countries they have, like, especially Australia and stuff. When one of my moderators sadly passed away, boy, to get information on that until I heard from her son, we knew something terrible happened because she was here all the time. But I'll tell you, it was like a wall. We even had our friends like we're in Australia trying to find out if we even had to do, like, we knew her son was in Japan at the time, to do a welfare check for her, right? To even get that, it took, you don't know the hoops we had to jump through because everything is so private. So even though we had her information and knew things, it was like pulling teeth. And then by the time we found it, then her son had contacted me and told me, the worst. But it's very difficult with some of the other countries and the privacy. So I don't know. Sometimes you could say the United States has way too much transparency with everything, and other countries it's like very difficult to get any type of information. So yeah, it's a scary thing, but there are people that are betrayed every single day. There's people right now, it's like and whether they just want to believe this or that age-old thing, I'm going to get a divorce, so I'm just staying for the kids, I'm just doing this, or she's blackmailing me, I'm just giving me a little time. We've all either been through it or we've heard somebody that's been through that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think my situation is extreme.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But like I said, everybody's been betrayed.
Yeah. And if anybody has any questions that's watching now, if you want to put them in the chat, I can ask Laurinel for you. And I have the links to her book and her website up pinned on top, and they're in the video description. It's a very interesting book. I'm going to finish. Like I said, I was just I was just filled with like all this anxiety. Like every time something was happening, I'm like, oh my gosh, I would have asked this, that, the other, but I couldn't do that. But very, very interesting topic. And I think it's a topic, no matter what, your case is extreme, but there's a lot of women, men, people that can identify with this stuff, this ultimate betrayal. And, were you left with, at the end, like, that he passed, there were so many things, were there so many things you wanted to ask him, tell him? Like, do you feel you wanted that closure with him, or did you get it some other way?
No, that's a great question. I thought that for years. Mm-hmm. I mean, the one thing that I really had wished that I had been able to talk to him about what it was like to know you're dying, and to have a discussion about that. But now I think to myself, neither of us were capable of having that discussion. I certainly wasn't at the time, and I don't think he was either. And then there's that lingering question is, why didn't you bother to get divorced? I mean, when I was taken to court, his first wife came, and it was the first time she had ever been to the United States. But we lived here for 22 years. Mm-hmm. So that's a question which I'll never get the answer to.
Did she speak to you when did she say anything to you?
Yes. On the way out, she thanked me for taking care of him. And I said something to her son about that he knew all those years and never said anything to me. And he said, yes, I kept my mouth shut.
Interesting. So, and now, is his son still in the United States?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Okay, you don't keep in touch with any of them, no?
Oh.
Okay.
No. I don't know if it's family. Thank you very much.
Yeah, right. So, oh my goodness. So, yeah, just are you in the same house that you were with him, or you are? Okay.
Yep.
So
yeah, I love it here.
Yeah.
I live in a fabulous community.
Okay. And do you, I know it's like, it's made you who you are and everything, and it's like it's difficult to say, well, what I would have done differently, and what you would have done, but it's like everything has made you who you are. So it's like people say either I would have cut it out of my life, or no, I realized I had to have that in my life, or how do you reconcile that? Do you say I wish I would have known better and done everything differently, or
I think it was my contract in this life to go through it. And I also, as you just pointed out, I'm a different person today than I was 15, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. And that kind of growth and evolution, I don't think would have happened if this hadn't happened to me.
right?
I was forced to take a look and wake up.
Okay. And so how do you go about helping other victims? Like what are you doing? Are you how do you reach out to them, or
No, I want people to read this book.
you want people to read this book? Okay.
Yeah. I think the book itself can be quite a support for people to know they're not the only ones. There's
Right.
bad stuff out there, and that there is light at the end of the tunnel.
And you have a website, so if they wanted to contact you after reading the book or something, you have contact information. If they had questions, you're available
Sure.
there, right? You have, yeah, because sometimes people identify so strongly with something like, and that's the thing. I think that's what the internet has brought, like so many people, no matter what, it could be a quirky thing that they collect or something, but they feel like they're the only ones, right? Whether they're suffering with a situation, or like I just said, like it's a quirky thing. Oh, I collect Snoopy glasses or whatever it is. Once they got to Google and they type that in, and that comes up, and they see, no matter like what it is, there are so many people. That's the one best thing I think about the internet. It made people feel like they're not alone with whatever they're going through. They're not alone. So, and that's so important, because if you sit there and you feel alone and you're ashamed and you don't want to tell anybody because, oh my gosh, I'm the only one that could have ever this happened to, and everybody will think I'm a freak, and or I'm stupid, or I'm not good enough. But yeah, to have somebody that understands, that's everything. Because he's one person, but it makes all the difference. So yeah, that's why this is important.
Yeah, I felt like, writing this book was extremely difficult for me, because I first of all, I wasn't able to let it go, because I had to keep reliving it in order to write it.
Right.
And I had several editors help me, and they kept saying, we don't know how you feel, this extreme thing just happened, and we don't know how you feel. We have to know how you feel. And I didn't want to feel. So I think many other people have experienced that as well.
Right, and there's denial, and because you're protecting yourself, and you don't want to put, all that out there and be vulnerable, right? But so important, yeah. And then going through that it's painful to write about all that stuff and confront all those feelings back then and live through that again, because a lot of times, especially in your case, you probably saw things like you said, and you pushed them down, like, oh no, don't think about that. So then when you really had to confront it, that, oh, like, why did he do that, and why was he having there, and yeah, he wants the drama.
And why did he want the drama? Do it?
Mm-hmm.
That was the hard thing.
Right. Why did you allow it? Why did you allow his explanations and just not question him? And right. And because and then that brought up a lot of things for you, I bet, right? About why and men, and probably back to your own childhood and your father and everything, right? All around why we are who we are and why everything shapes us. But yeah, I mean, as long as we get through it, right? What doesn't kill us makes us stronger, kind of thing. We have choices. You can either lay down and die from it, or you can try to grow from it, and that's it, And there's people that have situations like that and just become bitter and angry and don't do anything and don't get anywhere and lead a miserable life. And who's that serving, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, no one, not themselves, not anyone else. And so, I congratulate you for, pulling yourself out of that, wanting to find out why you did what you did, and then trying to help others. That's the best thing to do, when you have a situation, is to try to help somebody else navigate that, or just bypass that completely by, learning from someone else's situation. And that's what you did. And it's a really good book, and you guys should check it out. There are people in here saying that they're going to get the book. Someone said I also married someone 18 years my senior. It went very well for her, she said, though. So it's just crazy. And like a lot of us, we deal with situations where things happen in the relationships, and either we're no stranger to hearing stories where someone has a completely separate life, and that's why they end up killing their wife. So you're lucky, that something worse didn't happen to you. Or in another country, his wife was a lunatic, right? And she could have killed you. You don't know, or she could have had you killed. I mean, there's so many horrible things that could have happened, right? And you're here to tell the story, so you escape that. But yeah, that's scary to think of, what could have happened, with the power, with the being in another country, with things. They didn't have the technology to find people the way they do now with murder. We always say now murder is not an option now. It's not a solution, because you're going to get caught, and these guys still do it, and they're caught the next day. Yeah. I know, right? So you're very lucky to be alive. Because could have ended much worse, given what how you described her, pounding at the door, breaking the window, denting the door, throwing a brick through something, right? It's just scary. And he just laid in bed with you when that was going on, right?
I understand. He was mistreating both of us.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, I was not the only victim here.
Right, he was dishonest to her as well. Yeah, exactly. She was married to him, and he was dishonest with her. He's the one, and I mean, but it left in its aftermath could have been horrendous. Like you've got people feel for her too, like, oh, she's the wife, she's doing this. It's like Betty Broderick. I don't know if you ever heard that story. She put her husband through law school and everything, and then he ended up leaving her for like the legal secretary, and she felt like, oh my gosh. Now, he didn't hide that from her, but a lot of people identify with Betty, even though she did the most extreme thing and killed them both. She has people that like say, no, I understand this, and this is horrible of him, and like they don't agree with what she did in the end, but they see how she was driven to that, is what they say. So what I'm saying is, like, no matter what, there'll be both sides here, that say, but you agree, you're both victims. He is this person that's just deceiving the both of you, deceiving his children. They're victims too,
Absolutely.
It's just, he just left this path of victims, and he just goes off. And how did he feel? Did he have any deathbed confessions or epiphanies or anything when he,
No, I mean,
nothing?
he was on life support, so he had the thing down his throat and so on and so forth.
I mean, before he got to that point, like, he didn't know?
He never said a peep. Nothing.
And there was something, did you say, and I don't know, because that he was writing a book? Was there?
When he was, after he finished at the lab and didn't have enough to do, he decided he was going to write a book. And basically it was little sex vignettes of his hero seducing women. And I only found out about that, after he died and I was going through his stuff.
Right.
So I guess he found that entertaining.
So when you were going through his stuff, did you find anything else? Did you find anything else with his thoughts? Were there like anything that he said about this deception or nothing?
Oh, that's not true, because when I started digging through, because he never threw anything away, and I started digging through his stuff, and I found all his bank balances, his checkbooks, faxes back and forth from here in South Africa. I found out everything. So it was just one shock after another, after another, after another. The financial deceptions, the financial betrayals.
Right. Okay. So yeah, that's another blow, and it's afterwards, and so then, yeah, you've got to reconcile all that, and it's just one blow after another, probably going through and seeing those things that, oh, that's another thing he lied to me about it, and he's not there to even, say you liar. Did you do anything like for yourself? Like I don't know, where is he buried somewhere? Is he? What happened to him?
That's a funny story. Yes, I had a memorial service for him here on my property, and I took my cello outside and played while I was playing cello. A hole was dug, and we put his cremains in the earth with this beautiful coral maple planted over it. And after about, 6 months or something like that, the coral color from the trunk started bleeding into the leaves, and the leaves became bright red. And I had an arborist come over here, and I said, "What's going on with this tree?" He says, "I have no idea. I've never seen anything like this before. The tree died, and nothing will grow there now."
Wow. Were his cremains in an urn when you put them in? Oh, they were just loose?
Dumped in. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, wow, nothing will grow there. Wow.
Yeah.
Yikes. So, but did you have anything like where you got either really angry and you either, spoke to him, like went to a place that, I don't know if it was to that tree or whatever, or just either in your head or out loud even, like just laid it all down for him, like got that out of you or anything like that? Or wrote about it or anything? And besides the book.
There were so many layers that, I'm still working through it.
Yeah.
It's not a once getting angry and then 27 years of your life disappear.
Right. No, I mean, like, the book is definitely working through it, but I'm just saying, like, if there was just something where you just sat down in a place that you felt, I don't know, close to him or something, and just laid it all out, like, how could you do this? And
no, I think I took the opposite approach, and that was to work through and forgive him.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you have to. Yeah, that's important.
So I think it was the opposite, because I wanted to release anger, and he was a product, I guess, of his background and completely unconscious, and I don't want to be that way.
Well, yeah, that's very important, because only holding on to not forgiving him is only hurting you. So yeah, definitely. But I mean, sometimes in the forgiveness process, you can purge all that. Say, look, I'm so angry about this and this. I'll never get my answers to that. I'll never get this. But you know what? I'm not going to hold on to this anymore. That's you. Right. You need to answer for that. Exactly. And I'm just going to give that up to, if you believe in God or whatever, I'm going to give that up, and I'm going to forgive you because that's what I need for me. And
yes, I've done an awful lot of work on that.
Right.
And it does work. It does work.
Right, because it also takes a lot of those crazy, like, thoughts out of our head, like, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? You just absolve yourself of, look, I don't know what happened. I don't want to be ruled by these thoughts anymore. He came into my life. This is on him. I did the best I could, and I'm going to release that now.
Yes.
And it's very freeing, right? It's like you don't have to think about that stuff because it'll drive us crazy. The what ifs, the why didn't I do that? Why didn't I say that? Right? So and
going down that road is a waste of time.
Yeah, and he's not even here. So you're not even going to work it out. So you just have to I don't know why he did this. Maybe I might have some ideas, but it's not for me to figure out. I don't have to do that.
Yeah, good advice.
Right? Yeah, and it was a pleasure speaking with you. And then people here, they say they can understand, and a lot of people here, have had betrayals happen to them and things happen, and so it does work. Fink says, that's. But I appreciate you speaking with me, and you know what I'll do? I'll put because we have a lot of people that watch on replay who are at work or something. So I'm going to put a comment. I'll pin it where they can leave any questions that they might have for you, and then the links and everything to your book are here, and maybe you'll come back and talk to us sometime again. Tell us how it's going with your project of helping others. How it's going.
I hope it goes well.
Yeah, I do. I wish you the best. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's been a pleasure. And maybe we'll run into each other sometime. We're both in the same state.
We are indeed.
Yeah. Okay. Take care. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Carol.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Laurinel. Bye-bye. All right, guys, that was Laurinel Owens. You can find her book. It's pinned at the top. It's in the video description. And I'm sorry to everybody who was watching me last night. We lost internet, and that's why the video went out. Hi, Linda Uribe. You took care of all the money in your marriage. Your husband did not want to deal with it. Yeah, well, you're lucky there, Linda. Laurinel has quite the story to tell. But you guys, hang on one second. I'll see you later on. I'm going to try to get some stuff done around here. It's been a crazy morning, and I was running around like a lunatic. But let me just put the picture of the book up there. Let's see if that'll work with me right now. And there it goes. Hold on, let's make you full screen here. So there's her book, Strings Attached. It's a memoir of betrayal, bigamy, and self-discovery. Laurinel Owen. This memoir aims to inspire anyone who has loved, been betrayed, and is seeking recovery and support. I can't even speak today. So check it out. She led an amazing life up to this point and still is. But now she wants to help people with this book. And so check it out. I have the links there. And again, thank you so much for watching today. God bless. Prayers. Be good. Be kind. And I'll see you later on, okay? Love you guys.